I'm Linda, 50 years old, and I've been a single mother since my divorce when my daughter, Emma, was young. I worked full-time to support us both and did my best to raise her with love and support. Emma, though reserved, was a hard-working and determined young woman. Her persistence and efforts eventually paid off when she landed a job at her dream company, which made me incredibly proud. When Emma told me she had someone she wanted me to meet, I was thrilled. The man she introduced me to was Jack, who worked at one of their client companies and was 7 years older than her. At first glance, he seemed charming and sincere. He dressed sharply and greeted me with enthusiasm. After a brief introduction, he quickly got to the point and asked for my blessing to marry Emma. This request came as a surprise since Emma was only 23 at the time and had been dating Jack for just 6 months. I gently expressed my concerns about their decision, suggesting that it might be too soon for marriage. However, Jack looked me in the eye with a serious expression and declared that he could think of no one else but Emma and that he believed she was a truly wonderful woman. Emma also expressed her deep feelings and pleaded for my support. Seeing their determination and love for each other, I ultimately gave my blessing, moved by their passion and commitment. After the wedding, Emma and Jack planned to live with Jack's parents. Although I was apprehensive about the potential challenges of living with in-laws, Emma reassured me that she got along well with them and felt comfortable with the arrangement. Since their family home was only a 20-minute drive from mine, I felt that I could quickly come to her aid if needed. In the weeks following the wedding, I noticed a troubling change. Emma, who had previously been very communicative, stopped sending daily messages. Even when I reached out, her responses became rare and infrequent. Concerned, I decided to call her cell phone, but Jack answered instead. He informed me that Emma was in the bath and that she was doing fine, but his tone was dismissive and left no room for further conversation. I hung up, feeling unsettled. With no other way to reach Emma, I decided to visit their home. Jack's mother answered the intercom and curtly told me that Emma was out with Jack and she didn't know when they would be back. I felt a pang of anxiety, but left without pressing further. My worry grew when I discovered that Emma had resigned from her job without notice. This was shocking and out of character for Emma, who had been excited about her job and balancing it with her new responsibilities at home. Her sudden resignation made me even more anxious, and I began considering contacting the police to ensure her safety. Then, 2 days after learning about Emma's resignation, a startling event occurred in the middle of the night. The doorbell rang at 2 a.m., and when I checked the intercom, I could barely make out a figure that looked like Emma. I hurried to the door, my heart pounding. When I opened it, I was overwhelmed with shock and horror. Emma stood before me, her face swollen and bruised, looking almost unrecognizable. The sight of her in such a state left me speechless. Emma was trembling and crying as she entered the house. I held her and rubbed her back, trying to comfort her as she recounted her ordeal. Through her tears and choked-up voice, she revealed that, soon after their marriage, Jack's behavior had taken a dark turn. He began to treat her not as a partner, but as a servant. The pleasant demeanor he had shown before the wedding was replaced by harsh and demanding behavior. Emma was subjected to severe mistreatment by Jack and his parents, who expected her to serve them without question. The physical and emotional abuse she had endured was evident in her battered appearance. As Emma's story unfolded, my anger and resolve grew. It was clear that Jack and his family had betrayed Emma's trust and subjected her to a life of hardship and abuse. I vowed to seek justice for my daughter and ensure that those responsible for her suffering would be held accountable. I didn't want to trouble you, but seeing my daughter in such a state of distress filled me with a deep, burning desire for revenge. I wanted those who had hurt her to suffer just as much as she had. I vowed to never forgive Jack and his parents, who had promised to make Emma happy, but instead inflicted so much pain upon her. That night, after bringing Emma home, I decided to confront Jack's family. The next morning, I took Emma to the hospital to have her injuries treated. Her face was still swollen and covered in bruises, a painful reminder of the abuse she had suffered. After her treatment, we drove to Jack's family home. When we arrived, Jack's family was already in a state of panic, having noticed Emma's absence. Jack's father, furious, shouted at me through the intercom. "So you took her after all," he said angrily. I demanded an explanation for Emma's condition, and when they saw her standing there with her injuries, their demeanor changed. They reluctantly led us into the house. Inside, Jack's mother glared at Emma and sneered. We were just disciplining her a bit because she wasn't working properly. I was incredulous. "What are you talking about?" I demanded. "Jack, didn't you promise to make my daughter happy?" Jack responded coldly. That was only if she fulfilled her role as a wife properly. She was too preoccupied with her job, so I submitted her resignation letter for her. Emma tearfully explained that Jack had resigned from her job without her consent, simply because she was working late and he didn't like it. Emma had been thrilled to work at her dream company and was doing her best to balance both work and her new responsibilities at home. Jack dismissively stated, "If she can't balance both, she has to quit." Jack's father added, "It took her an hour just to make dinner. She can't do a single household chore properly." This only made Emma's shoulders shake with distress. I questioned why Jack's mother couldn't have supported Emma, but she responded with a dismissive tone, saying, "When I came here as a bride, I had to do everything and learn through experience." Jack's father echoed this, suggesting it was just a matter of generational change. They claimed they had been monitoring Emma closely, pushing all the housework onto her while Jack's mother did as she pleased. It became clear that Jack and his parents had taken extreme measures to control Emma. They had even taken away her phone to prevent her from contacting me and had restrained her to keep her from leaving. They had made Emma eat leftovers to save on gas and barely allowed her to use more than a trickle of water for showers. When Emma protested, they called her insolent, slapped her, and took turns beating her. Emma had believed that Jack might change and support her, but instead, their treatment only worsened. The abuse became so severe that she felt her life was in danger. Desperate, she waited until all three of them were asleep and fled their home, walking for over an hour to reach safety at my house. I was furious and couldn't accept the injustice of their actions. Confronting them, I spoke with a strong and unwavering tone. The three of them smirked and looked at each other with an unsettling calmness. Jack admitted nonchalantly, "From the beginning, I just wanted a wife who would obey me. I thought Emma would make a good servant." Jack's mother added that Emma must have learned her lesson, and Jack's father suggested giving her another chance. The way they laughed about the situation only fueled my anger further. I couldn't hold back any longer. Emma, equally enraged, confronted them. When Jack tried to grab her, I quickly intervened, using my strength to restrain him. I revealed to Jack's parents that in my youth, I had been on the brink of making it to the Olympics in wrestling, but had to give it up due to an injury. I increased the pressure on Jack, who struggled helplessly beneath me. When I finally released him, he slumped down defeated. Turning to Jack's parents, I warned them of my intent to deal with them next. Their pleas for mercy and cries of concern about their reputation only heightened my resolve. I told them that while I wished Emma happiness, I could never forgive them for what they had done. Emma, following my lead, presented divorce papers to Jack. "Please just sign," she said, disgust evident in her voice. Jack's face turned red with anger as he refused. I informed him that I had already obtained a medical certificate for Emma's injuries and filed a police report. We would fight this to the end, regardless of their protests. The threat of legal action and the public exposure caused Jack and his family to panic. They sweated profusely, pleading for a way out. Emma expressed a desire to divorce immediately, and we gathered her belongings, leaving their house without a backward glance. The divorce was finalized successfully, and Emma received $50,000 in compensation from Jack. The police report was accepted, and Jack and his parents were questioned. Though they were released soon after, the incident became a topic of gossip in their neighborhood. Jack's company learned of the mistreatment, and he was removed from the fast track to promotion. Meanwhile, Emma began her recovery at my home, both physically and emotionally. She eventually started looking for a new job. As for me, I'm not done yet. I've begun training again with the hope of returning to wrestling. I'm determined to live life fully and seek justice for the wrongs committed against my daughter.